Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Coffin Talk Interviews with the Living, a weekly podcast that explores how our views on death affect the way we live our life. And this week, coming to us from a little north of London, England, is Gloria Battini. She's a globally respected spiritual guide, mentor, and advocate for conscious living. She empowers individuals to find harmony within themselves. She also empowers them to unlock their psychic gifts and to connect with the universal energies that surround us. There will be plenty of information for how to find her, but her website is pretty easy. It's hername.com, Gloria Battini. And I didn't actually ask you how to pronounce your name. Did I even say it correctly?
You absolutely did.
Awesome.
Yes.
I was a little nervous. Normally, I ask for a pronouncer, and I was like, "Oh, I'm going to have to fly this one."
Yeah.
So, welcome to the show. And we always ask our guests, how old are you? Where did you grow up? And what generation, if any, do you consider yourself a member of?
Okay. So, well, thank you for having me, first of
Yeah,
all.
definitely.
How old am I? I am 39, and I was born in Italy, but I moved to the UK when I was 24. And what was the last question?
What generation, if any, do you consider
Oh,
yourself a
yes.
member of?
I'm a millennial. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes, yes.
Well, I pronounced your name right because I'm Italian by heritage, and so I just guessed that it was Italian. So my
There you go.
mother's maiden name is Provenzano, and we're from Sicily and all that. But
Oh, beautiful.
yeah, but we're not from Italy because that's an American thing. We're obsessed with saying where our ancestry is from. But I am like second or third generation, so my
Nice.
and that is my way of uncomfortably segueing into why did you leave Italy for the UK? Do you ever plan to go back? What is that like?
Yes. Yeah. I do not. No, I do not plan to go back. I don't. I don't think as much as I have family there and I have dear friends and everything, I never felt like Italy was truly my home. The concept of home for me and for the work that I do as well is really big.
Mhm.
Everything that I do is about helping people coming home to themselves, right? So I never felt home within myself or within that environment when I was in Italy, when I was growing up and up until I was, yes, 24. And then I was in a unhealthy, toxic relationship at the time, but I then ended up getting married. But before we did that, he asked me if I wanted to move away. And I said yes. And even though that relationship had a lot of wrong things going on and a lot of trauma and a lot of that, I think that's one of the very, very good things that came out of it was actually moving to London and finding home within myself and then within the place as well. Yeah.
That's very cool, and I can relate strongly because I am divorced and remarried, and I met my wife, who I love, and she's my wife for life, here in Arizona. But the
Yeah.
reason I came to Arizona is because of the toxic relationship. So it's a similar
Yeah.
thing where I call it like the lemonade theory. Like you got to make lemonade out of
Yeah.
the lemons of life. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely relate
Absolutely.
to that. And I also we were talking a little bit before, but while I did grow up in America and I've lived in America my whole life, I've traveled to like 30 some countries, and I love all like the different cultures, so I don't play favorites, but I do have a problem living in a country that says we're number one and beating its chest all the time, because I'm like, I'd like to politely disagree and just say we're one of many number ones. And so that has gotten me in a lot of trouble with certain types of people. But
Oh, oh, no, I think I'm open. I'm open to many. I mean, my partner is Hungarian, so
cool.
I'm
Very cool.
definitely open to, and London is beautiful because I had the chance to meet people from many different countries. And it's such a beautiful thing, I think, to get exposed to, especially because coming from a small village in Italy, you are not really exposed to anything, and it's
Hmm.
quite a closed mentality, and anything that it's different, it is labeled as weird or not trustworthy, and all of that. And so when I came, I thought I was progressive or advanced,
Hmm.
for the place that I came from. And then I came here and I was completely like thrown
Yeah, yeah.
into beautiful and super open place like London, and I absolutely love it. So yes, I do have come in contact with different countries and with different cultures, and I so appreciate the differences. I'm fascinated by all of it. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. And speaking of like progressiveness and like how people treat topics, America is not at all like the UK, but I actually don't know the answer to this, so I'm dying of curiosity. Here, if you say like I'm going to help people unlock their psychic gifts, you're immediately put into a box of out there woo woo, but there's also a growing fan base in America of out there woo woo. So I'm trying to explain two things at once, but I'm curious in the UK, does that get a reaction or is that a pretty normal thing to say? Like how is the vibe there? Or I shouldn't say the
Yeah,
UK, I'll just say
so
London because I know it's a big country. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. I think that things are opening up a lot more. I think it really, really depends on who you're talking to and their background and their beliefs and everything, of course. But I've not seen, I think that every time I felt blocked, it was mainly for my own insecurities. I
Ah.
have not actually, right? I've not actually met somebody that told me, oh, this is all BS, or is it too woo woo? You know, I've had
Uh-huh.
people saying, I don't resonate with it,
Hmm.
but still like be very respectful, which is totally fine. But I never had somebody being like, oh no, this is all BS. I think that was more of my own insecurity simply because that's the environment where I grew up. It was
Hmm.
a bit like closed off to these things, very, Catholic. I
Hmm.
grew up Catholic over in Italy. So that, yeah, but no, I have to say that I always felt like this. Well, London, I was going to say this country, but yes, London is pretty open, and I feel the more I carry on with this work, the more I just encounter people who are open to it. So it feels really good, and it gives a lot of hope for where we're going actually with the world and how things are evolving. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Awesome. I would love to stay on the subject because not only am I transfixed by it, but I feel like it really is actually a not talking point, yet extremely important talking point in literally geopolitics and modern culture. I see an
Yeah.
emergence of a new class of spiritual people, and they're not all younger, but it's a lot of younger people. You're 39, I'm 43. I think we're at like the actual older end of it, believe it or not. And it's like,
Yeah.
and so I'm taking a lot of inspiration from that, but uh depending on where I lived in my life and where I've been, I have had like low self-esteem about talking about these kind of things. I feel like I feel mocked if I bring up like a spiritual experience, and I'm never certain if the person's doing it out of insecurity of what if he's right versus like whatever personal reason they have. But what would be your advice to people like me, but of any age? I was only bringing it up because so you can understand me
Hmm.
better. If they feel like, because I can honestly tell you that like there's no point in talking about this to certain people. Like they get dead in the eyes and they just don't want to hear about it. Yet I feel like I'm betraying a part of myself if I just pretend that I'm not interested in these kind of things, that I don't believe in literally like things you described, energy. I wrote a book about psychics, and I know there's tons of frauds out there, but there's also real people and earnest people. So can you address those
Yeah.
millions of thoughts?
Yeah, yeah, of course, yes. I think I think I actually have a very unique perspective, and you might appreciate this. So, some of my family don't know what I do
Ah,
to this
yes.
day,
Awesome. This
right?
is definitely what
Some of
I'm
my
doing.
right.
Yeah.
I know that I knew that I was gonna go in the right direction with that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, some of my family don't know what I do now. I feel that when it comes to sharing these things, are these people that you care about, or are these people simply just passing by? And because if we're talking about people who are just passing by, then just keep living your truth, keep sharing what you feel like you want to share. And if you're met with resistance in a really aggressive way, then you can just wish them healing, I guess, because it's simply, I don't think that they've gone through enough perhaps of their path, or maybe that's their path right now, right? That's their path for this life, to just not be open to these things. And it's okay, as much as we feel like how this is amazing to open up to, how this work is so important. As a teacher, I do believe that this is who we are, like
Mhm.
at our core, like this is how we're made. We're all born psychic, but not everybody has to be open to that.
Mhm.
Okay, so as I completely respect somebody that has a different opinion, absolutely. But when it becomes aggressive, then I'm like, I hope you heal. because it's not about the fact that you disagree with me. It's about the aggression that you have towards the difference, towards the fact that I think differently of you. So it's never about what you think of this work, because I think that as long as we keep living our truth and we keep sharing our truth, we will reach the people who are ready and open, and the people who are not, you never know. You sharing your truth might open them maybe one day, down the line, or it's possible that they never will, but it's okay. All we can do is share our truth. If it's people that you care about in your, in your immediate family that are not open to these things, I don't have to have them agree with me in order for me to love them.
Yeah.
I really don't feel like I need that. I understand that, and I think it's 50-50, because some of the reasons, obviously, that I have not shared what I do with some members of my family is because I know that they have a very, very strong opinion against it. Really, really strong opinion against it. And what do? Do I share it with the risk of fracturing the relationship that I really care about? Do I need them to approve of what I do for me to feel that what I do is valuable and for me to feel fulfilled? I don't. Do I need them to approve of what I do in order for me to love them? No, I don't do that. I don't need that either. So I think we have to be really grounded in our own values and really grounded within ourselves, and just be really secure. Yeah, this is my path. This is what I believe. It's okay. It doesn't matter whether they know or not. At least this is how I feel.
No, that's
how I navigate.
That's very that was awesome. Everything you said really hit home, and what I want, not what I wanted to hear, but it was comforting and uplifting. And also you really touched on the hardest part for me, which is, how can I decide if I have a meaningful relationship with someone when they discredit and actually go out of their way to despise something that I'm interested in, yet aren't I kind of doing the same thing if I'm dismissing their right to like? So I like the way you handled it, which is like, why even bring it up? Why not just concentrate on what does exist between the two of you? What real love is there? So that was beautiful. And I think you mentioned at the end, but it's the perfect segue into what I planned on asking you, which is, what has been your path to this point? Like, what were early either psychic experiences or spiritual experiences that led you away from Catholicism and Italian culture and your family and over here and all that?
Yeah. Well, my journey has been very, very open as a child, very, very sensitive child, very open to energy, very, very intuitive, and then completely closed off, completely switched off, completely traumatized, then healed and opened again. So this has been like the ups and downs of the journey. But essentially, yes, my psychic experiences came very, very early in life. I could feel spirits all around me. I did not have the words to describe it, and I didn't have the knowledge to understand what exactly was happening. But all I knew was that when somebody passed, I didn't feel like they were gone anywhere. I felt like, their physical presence being missing, but their essence, I never felt it going anywhere. And this has been like that, throughout my life. So I've always been very open. I was always also very intuitive about the people around me. But I think that's where it all changed for me. That's when I started being closed off, because my intuition was telling me one thing when I was at a very, very young age, and I'm talking like 4, 5, 6 years old. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So my intuition was understanding things in a certain way, and yet the adults in my life were telling me to move away from it. And now, with the knowledge that I have now, I would never tell a child to move away from their own intuition. I would actually, encourage for them to follow that. But I don't think that the adults that I was around had enough understanding of all this. But I also think that they were hurt people as well, and therefore led me onto a certain path of mistrust towards myself.
Yeah.
Right. So even though I felt in a certain way, like towards my parents, I had like an intuitive understanding of things. I was always shut down. Like, no, you cannot think this way. It has to be like this. And, you're like 4, 5, 6 years old. You're looking for guidance, when it comes to your parents, when it comes to the adults in your life. And so the more I followed that guidance, now that I'm 39, and looking back, the more I followed that guidance, the more I separated from my essence.
Yeah.
And then I experienced like a lot of bullying in secondary school. And then, a toxic relationship from the age of 18 until I was 32.
Wow.
So it was a very long time. And so like I feel like all of these, like the sequence, all of these things happening in sequence have sort of um put me on a path of complete disconnection
Hmm.
until the age of 32. Yeah, complete
Wow.
disconnection. I was riddled with anxiety, OCD.
Mhm.
I was literally doing anything that I could do just to be accepted by, just I was literally starving, I think, for love and
Yeah.
acceptance,
Yeah.
right? And then I was in such a bad place with anxiety and OCD that I decided to go see someone and do something about it because I just couldn't live in my own head anymore. It was just so uh it was just too much. I really didn't know what was going to happen. My head was just like my own worst enemy. I didn't understand it. I gave it so much power. I believed every single thought. I thought that all the thoughts that I was having was the core of who I was, which is absolutely not true.
Yeah.
But then you believe, you believe it and you're like, oh my God, I'm this person. It was just like, yeah, too much. So I went to see a coach who specialized in anxiety, anxiety disorders. And she helped me a lot, actually. She really, really helped me a lot. After about 18 months working together, I had halved the number of OCD rituals that I had during the day. And
Awesome.
I found,
Wow.
yeah, it was really, really good. And I found that halving the number of those rituals gave me space, gave my brain oxygen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Just time
Yeah.
to breathe. And all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute. I could not see these things before. So I woke up to a lot of my own ways, like to how I was being my own worst enemy. But I also woke up to the people that I had around me. I woke up to the fact that I was in a toxic relationship, that what I was living wasn't love, that love doesn't mean that you have to completely sacrifice yourself in order, to make the other person happy, that you have to accept everything. So I sort of like came to the understanding, and then I left the relationship, and shortly after I started my journey. And so little by little I sort of reconnected all the pieces of the puzzle together and just came home to myself, came
That's
home, which
awesome.
is yeah,
That's really a
thank you.
beautiful story. And I just finished reading a biography or an autobiography of someone who had OCD and had a similar experience. They used meditation and other things, but it was like, it was heart wrenching to read how it develops and how it builds and how it's not just like, oh, you're born and you're like this, but like little habits get tacked onto
Mhm.
one another. And the next thing you know, this character, this real life person was spending an hour before he could leave the house. And then sometimes half an hour going
Yeah,
back. And like, with all
yeah.
that, uh, behind us, I do want to ask the only other planned question on the podcast, because you seem to have, uh, I have a feeling your opinion about it will be interesting, and also that you've thought about it a lot. But we always ask guests, what do you think happens when you die? So, what is your answer to that?
I think we just become energy. We just go back to being energy. That's it. I think it's very simple.
Hmm.
I think it's a very, very simple process. I don't from I'm a spiritual medium, so I do connect with the other side a lot. And
Hmm.
if there's one of the things that I've come to understand is that what we call the other side is not isn't anywhere else.
Hmm.
It's the same side, it's the exact same side that we're on. The only difference is that we are not energy, we're a physical body.
Hmm.
And when we pass, we become energy again. And that's the only difference. But actually, we're all here, all together, all at the same time. So yeah, I think that's what happens. We
That's
just
very
go
cool.
back to being energy. Yeah.
And why would some energy want to communicate more with the energy that's here than others? Do you have any like theory on that based on speaking with and being a medium?
Uh, we can talk to anyone.
Hmm. Okay.
We can talk to, if there isn't a soul on the other side that's going to refuse you contact.
Okay. Wow. That's cool. Yeah.
Absolutely not. Yeah, there isn't. We can talk to anyone. So it's about us. What I think that so when we try to communicate with, I'm going to call it the other side, just simply because that's
Yeah.
what we know
Cool.
it for, right? So just for the
Awesome.
sake of it. But
Thank you. Yeah.
when we connect with the other side, um, it is not about them. So the connection that we're able to establish is a lot about us. So if we, let's say, if we lose somebody really dear to us, if we feel like there is guilt, if we feel like if there is something in our relationship with them that brings our own vibration down, that brings our own self-doubt, that's the reason why we can't connect. It's not because they don't want to.
Hmm.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
And yeah, so it's very much our own brain, and the whole like self-doubt, the whole, insecurities that comes from us, it's all purely analytical mind.
Hmm.
That's all it is. So in a way, it's that part of the mind that also goes into the anxiety and OCD overdrive type
Yeah.
thing, right? So the more that part of us is in charge, the less we are open, the least we are open to the energies. But essentially, nothing ever dies. Like the concept that we have of death is, I don't think it's right.
Hmm.
I think that a lot of people see death as this like ending, but it really isn't. Like not in a way that we think that it ends.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen like so many people, as a medium, I have so many people that come to me because they're grieving, obviously, because they, it's not just about, oh, this is cool to do. They're actually grieving. They want to know that their loved one is okay. They want to know what has happened.
Hmm.
Some of the people chose to go. Some of
Yeah.
the souls that I connect with, they choose to go. And so the loved ones on this side, they want to know what happened, right? But nothing ever is ever finite. We are perpetual. Our energetic essence
Hmm.
is perpetual. The only thing that changes is the fact that we have a physical body here, and then when we pass, we don't have one anymore, and then it's a different language that we speak. Right.
Yeah.
So we stop speaking English
Hmm.
or whichever other
Yeah.
language,
Whatever.
right? We stop speaking the language of words and we start speaking the language of energy.
Hmm.
So if you want to speak to anyone on the other side, then what you need to start doing is understanding the language of energy and understanding what you need to do about yourself and with yourself so that you can start speaking that language, and then communicating with the other side will come easy.
I have
It's
read
just
hundreds of books and interviewed more than 200 people about this, and that was one of the most profound and different ways to explain something. And so now I'm going to ask a brand new question I've never asked someone before. Based on what you said, it would seem not only possible, but it would seem like a certainty that you could therefore contact the energy of something that has yet to be a human here. Have you ever done that? Have you heard of that? Is that a thing?
yes, I have. Yes,
That's never even
I
occurred to me to ask that.
have. Yeah, absolutely. I have. I absolutely have. And it was actually one of my first experiences when I started training, when I started doing psychic training. So I was very new to everything, as in consciously new to everything. Subconsciously, and and from a psychic point of view, I felt like all the trainings, all the psychic trainings that I've done, it's always been about remembering. So it was never something that completely, oh my God, I need to grasp my head around this because I don't really know. Like it was an instant understanding. So it felt like it was just coming to the surface. But my conscious mind did not necessarily yet know certain things. So my first experience of reading energy and connecting with my own energy world, because this is what we are, right? So we see ourselves as physical, but actually we're so much more than that because energy is so big. So the first time that I connected, I saw someone there that didn't look like they were in a human form, and that it didn't look like anything. And I thought, oh, I'm curious about that. What's that?
Yeah, yeah.
What is it? What is it? And I started connecting a little bit more. And I think, and every now and then I connect with them again. But I think there's just an energy that comes from a different planet, from somewhere far away. And every time I asked, why are you in my energy space? Like, what is it? And he always says, I'm just here to observe. I'm just here to look. Is that okay if I stay? And I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah,
It doesn't, no problem. Like, oh, good. We
yeah.
can chat if you want to. But yeah, yeah.
I remember the first time I had the thought, I was very young, but I remember thinking, if spirits all are around, that means they're like in the bathroom with me. They're like everywhere. And like when I was like a teenager, they were there too. Like it's just like weird to think about how much we think privacy, like right now we literally talk about like privacy with phones and all these things, but like
Yeah.
that's such an illusion when we're talking about the meta level of what we're talking about, which is energy being
Yeah.
everywhere in existence. Do you think there's like a meaning to life, or is this just a curiosity experiment? Or are people just coming here as energy to become like a human form? Or do you think there's actually like a baseline reason we're all here at whatever point we're here? Hey everyone, if you're a fan of the show, please head over to mikeyop.com and click the subscribe button. It's the best way to support us, and it's free. That's MIKEYOPP.com. Thanks.
I believe that um I have two things coming up for me. This is very raw
That's okay.
reaction to your
Yeah,
question.
that's fine.
So I have two things coming up for me straight away. I think that number one, the first thing that came is the meaning of life is love, as in like we are all here to understand what it means, how to express it, how to receive it, how to give it, like in some way, shape, or form, or how much it hurts us to not have it and who we become as a result of feeling unloved, right? So I feel like it all sort of like
Yeah.
circulates around the concept of love, not necessarily finding your true love. No, absolutely not. But it's
Yeah.
more around the concept of it. But then as I was thinking that, and another thing came to me as you asked that question, which is I don't actually think we only have one meaning.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I think that there's more meanings. I think that these lives are so and I also don't think we only have one life, by the way. I think we're having so many different lives at the same time. And I think that our soul is here to just experience different things. So it never just comes down to one thing, or maybe for some people it does. You never know. Maybe some people are right. But I think it's such a unique thing for each and every one of us. What is the meaning of it, but in the end, maybe it's experience, it's exploration. It's like, what does it mean? Was I loved, and did I feel love? Did I give love? Did I receive it? And how did that impact my life? And did I value more the love on the inside, or did I value more the love on the outside? Like, I think it's just so like, intricate.
Well, no, I think it's interesting to me. Not everyone has the pleasure of a toxic relationship, and not everyone even has the pleasure of being in one and then getting out of it. But I do feel like those of us who go through one and come out on the other end, I would say almost everyone I've ever met is better and doing better after it. Like it's weird that. So like I did not require that experience to become who I am right now, but like you, I was who I am now, and then I wasn't for like a long time.
Yes.
And I wasn't a piece of crap. Like, well, I wasn't ever like, no one would ever say like, oh, that was Mike's dark period. But for me, it was like, I wasn't living up to my standards for myself. And so that's kind of why I'm interested in this show, guests like you, and talking about everything the way we are, is that I feel like the last thing in the world we need is for people to be embarrassed or private about sharing what you're talking about and our experiences. And especially when, like I said, I always make this clear because I have like a wide listening base. And I know that like based on writing a book about psychics, some people really hate that word and hate that subject, and they hate mediums. They hate like all these words, but what they never hate and never talk against is energy. Like they all believe in what you talked about. So it's just very interesting to me because I feel like now more than ever is a time to see world leaders who disappoint us as people who don't understand love and haven't been either given enough or have a bitterness about it. And like there's a lot of what you're talking about that translates into how we can treat each other. So it's cool. It's cool to hear you talk about things the way you do, but also you seem incredibly even-keeled and happy. And so this is kind of my last question for you, and then I'll let you say something else after that if you want. But Do you feel like most people are searching for peace or for happiness or for neither or both? Like, I have recently come to the conclusion that I used to think happiness could be something I would attain, and now I realize that happiness, sadness, anger, all these things are just emotions that come and go, but there is a sense of peace that I build every day that makes the anger less volatile and it makes the happiness even less impressive. So I don't know.
Yeah.
What's your feeling about that?
Yeah. That's actually that's a very beautiful way of explaining it. Yes, because you know what? When we this is it. So if you say are people searching for happiness, or if you just the word searching, for some reason it makes me think like we're looking for something outside.
Hmm.
So my answer to that is yes. Do I believe that the majority of people are looking for something that's outside for them of themselves? Yes, I do believe that. I do believe that. But once they figure it out that it's inside, which is the peace,
Hmm.
then that's when the game changes.
Cool. Yeah, I like that.
That is absolutely when the game changes. Yes,
And
yes.
I lied. I do have another quick question I want to ask. I was a language teacher for
Yeah.
10 years, and I'm obsessed with asking people who are as good at their second or even third. I don't know which order you learned in. When did you, or do you currently, and did you ever notice that you started dreaming in the non-birth language?
Yes, I do dream in the non-birth language. Yes. When did I start that? I think probably just a year or two after I moved to the
Wow.
UK, I think. Yeah, because I was pretty a lot of I feel that a lot of people who move abroad, they keep watching TV programs or reading books in their native language. I never did that.
Mhm.
I just never did that. I moved here. I always said this, I moved to this country. I chose this country because I like the language. I like the culture. I want to be here. If I wanted to watch movies in Italian, I would still be in Italy. So
Yeah.
I just completely like adopted everything. And I think that that probably made it easier to be programmed in a different language, because that's all it is, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
being programmed in a different
Well, that's
language.
the greatest pleasure of my working career was working with nothing but people like you because all of you by nature have to be more open-minded than the rest of us. Well, I speak more languages now, but people who only learn one language, it's not about traveling. It's a different thing. You know what I'm talking about. It's a
Yeah,
way like you
yeah,
think differently in different languages because you're forced to. It's constricting and not
yeah,
constricting. So it's a
yeah,
beautiful thing to see. And then yeah, I think there's like a richness to that. I don't know. Do you have like
yeah.
do you think about this often or never or like
I don't know. I always felt like languages came quite natural to me. I don't know why. Even, do you know what? My parents come from two different places in Italy.
oh,
So
cool. Yeah.
so my mom is from Lombardy, which is where Milan is, and my dad's from Tuscany.
Okay.
And they separated when I was very small. I was like 2 years old when they separated. So I did my whole childhood going back and forth between the two, and they have two very different accents.
Yeah.
And they always told me, since before I can remember, that when I was in Tuscany, I would speak in a way, in a certain way. And then when I went back to Milan to my mom, I would just turn into something like completely different and speak like something different. So
Yeah.
maybe for me it comes from that. I don't know. Maybe it's the early imprinting to languages. I don't know.
I don't know, but it's fascinating. I've spent a lot of time with people who are like actually bilingual like you. So not like I
Mm,
learned a language and I sort of speak it to like get a cab, but like real I can think in
yeah.
both. And my favorite moment is when you pick up the phone and it's someone from back home and I just see you in like you're just a stranger. Like I don't know that person. I only talk
Yes.
to Gloria who speaks English like this way. So it's
Yes.
cool to hear you
Yeah,
say
yeah.
that. And your parents were like noticing it. Well, like I said at the beginning of the interview, I do always give my guests like the floor at the very end because I just have a diverse audience and you are a wise person with a lot of great thoughts and passion for what you do. So, is there anything you'd like to tell our audience?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, if there's one thing I want every single person on this planet to know and to embrace about themselves is that whatever you think God is, or whatever you don't have to be religious. This is not a religious statement or a religious concept, but whatever you think that this infinity is, please know that it's not outside of you. Please know that it's what you're made of. and start thinking about yourself as somebody who is made of that kind of energy, because you absolutely are. And when you do, your perspective on what you can do and how you can be in this world, it really will change. It really will change, because you are absolutely infinite. You really are. If you're listening to this, please, please know that you are infinite, and do not believe anybody that tells you otherwise. You really are.
Thank you so much, Gloria Battini. You're easy to reach. Like I said, there will be a note with a direct link to her actual website, but you can also just enter Gloria Battini with 2 T's into the URL of your web browser and hit go, and you will be at her website. But thank you for coming on our show. Thank you to everyone who
Thank you.
consumes Coffin Talk. And as always, the best way to support our show is to head over to my website, mikeyop.com. That's MIKEYOPP.com, and sign up for the free newsletter that comes out every week. All right. We will see you soon.